emotional stories or long-winded stories. These are often lies or fabricated hadiths or whatever it might be. And so what they are trying to do is they're trying to just really soften the people's hearts by using rhetoric and emotion, and often they will, they're trying to stir the people's hearts by stories and emotions, right? And it's all ignorance. There's no real knowledge. There's no real correction taking place. It's just stirring people's emotions. The Sheikh says that the hearts of the people are most in need of what will tie them to their Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, to the message of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and what he came with in terms of commands and prohibitions and information. That's what you should be tying them to. What is the greatest thing Allah commanded? What is the greatest thing Allah prohibited? Right? What is, instead of tying them or stirring them with stories and emotional stories and things which have no basis. And it's known from the companions such as Ibn Umar radiallahu anhu and others and the Tabi'een as well, that whenever they heard a storyteller standing in front of the people, then they would stand and they would leave the masjid. Right? So you have these storytellers present today. Right? Just to give a quick example, in Egypt there's a man called Amr Khalid, and he comes on stage and he tells tear-jerking stories, brings tears to your eyes, and it's all just stories stirring people's emotions. And once you stir people's emotions, you can then direct them to whichever direction you want, because it's emotion that they are really focused upon, right? Not knowledge. So when you stir people's emotions, you can direct them to whichever direction you want. And this used to be present, as we've seen in the time of the Salaf, and used to abandon such people. The way of the prophets and messengers was to call the people to single out Allah in worship, according to the Quran and to the Sunnah. And this is why they give the correct and true understanding and explanation of the kalima la ilaha illallah. What is its true meaning? Its true meaning is, there is none which has the right to be worshipped except Allah. This is the tawheed of the messengers. There is none which has the right to be worshipped except Allah. This is one way to explain it. Another way to explain it is, none is worshipped in truth except Allah. Right? There's two meanings here. Let's explain each one. First one, none has the right to be worshipped except Allah, meaning none deserves to be worshipped except Allah. Why? Because Allah is the Rabb, is the creator, the provider, the sustainer, the creator of all that you see, observe, experience, benefit from on a day-to-day basis. He's the creator of all of that, right? And so therefore He alone deserves to be worshipped. This is one meaning of La ilaha illallah. And the other way to explain it is, none is worshipped in truth except Allah, meaning that the worship of everything else besides Allah is futile and false. It is false. It is false worship, because it is based upon futility. It is based upon injustice, right? So only the worship of Allah is true and just, and the worship of everything else is false and unjust. Right? So this is the meaning of the kalima la ilaha. This is the tawheed of the messengers. None has the right to be worshipped except Allah, and none is worshipped in truth except Allah. So this is what the prophets and messengers, this is what they called the people to, this is what they based their call upon. And so this is the meaning of La ilaha illallah. There is no other meaning besides this. From here, the Shaykh now is going to give us two examples of two groups or two parties present in the 20th and 21st century who have deviated from this methodology. And the first of these groups, the Sheikh says that there are two interpretations of La ilaha illallah which is present in our time. The first of them is an interpretation given by, which came from India, and its founder is Muhammad Ilyas al-Kandalawi, and he is, as you may know, the founder of the sect of Jama'atul Tabligh. Right? This is a group who was established in the early 20th century, and their interpretation of La ilaha illallah, as we mentioned earlier, it is no different to the understanding of Abu Jahl and the pagans of Quraysh, because they believed and accepted that there's only one creator, there's only one provider, there's only one sustainer, there's only one who gives life, who takes life, right? So the pagans of Quraysh, they were not in dispute about this. They believed all of this. Allah is the creator, provider, sustainer, giver of life, taker of life. Well, this wasn't in dispute. So therefore, if you come along and you say that the meaning of La ilaha illallah means there's no creator but Allah, there's no provider but Allah, there's no sustainer but Allah, then what you have presented is no different to what the pagans and polytheists of Quraysh already affirmed. Right? So this cannot be the Tawheed that the messengers call to. And so this group, they, if you read in their books, this is the meaning of the kalima La ilaha illallah that they go out and they teach the people. So how can you claim that you are doing tabligh? You are conveying the message of the prophets. And then when you go to the people and to the houses and the books that you teach from or that you have in your masajid, and you teach the people and you tell them, you open the book and he says, La ilaha illallah, there is no creator besides Allah. How can this be Tawheed? How can you have taught them something beyond what the polytheists of Quraysh, the pagans of Quraysh, even they accepted and affirmed this? You haven't taught them anything. And this is not the Tawheed of the messengers. So the Shaykh goes on to explain that this Tawheed of Lordship, of Allah being the Lord, this is something that Abu Jahl, from the heads of the pagans of Quraysh, he and his likes, they affirmed all of this. And it's in the Quran in many, many verses. وَلَئِن سَأَلْتَهُمْ مَنْ خَلَقَ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ لَيَقُولُنَّ اللَّهُ. If you were to ask them, O Muhammad, these pagans, who created the heavens and the earth, they will surely say, it was Allah. And likewise, if you were to ask them, Man khalaqahum, who created them, they will surely say Allah. Right? And many of the verses which are similar to this. So this Jama'ah, or this group, the Shaykh says, has many, many followers. They are in many, many places. They are in, they travel to many places. They are in Mecca, they are in Medina. And they they have many, many different kind of ways that they approach the people, and the Shaykh goes on to say that their Tawheed is not the Tawheed of the prophets and messengers, rather it is the Tawheed of Abu Jahl and his likes. And Abu Jahl and his likes, they were people who the Prophet fought against, because they rejected the actual Tawheed, which is to single out Allah in worship. So this is one false interpretation of the word La ilaha illallah. The second the Shaykh goes on to mention, At-Tafsir al-Thani, is the one that we mentioned earlier. This is the Tawheed of the Khawarij, of the extremists, of the terrorists, right? La hakima illallah. There is no judge or ruler except Allah. Now this is a true meaning, it's true. There is no ruler or judge except Allah. But what they've taken is they've taken one meaning of the many meanings of Tawheed and isolated it and then created a whole political call around that one thing. It's possible for us to do the same thing over and over and over again. For example, one person can come along and say, Allah is Ar-Razzaq, He is Raziq, He is the provider. So why don't we, just to emphasize, why don't we say there's something called Tawheed Ar-Raziqiyya, just like this Tawheed Al-Hakimiyya, right? What's stopping you from doing that? Because you can do that with all of the meanings of Tawheed, right? But we know that Tawheed, all of these meanings, they enter into Tawheed Al-Rububiyyah or Tawheed Al-Asma'i wa Sifat or Tawheed Al-Uluhiyyah. Everything is included and comprised within these types of Tawheed. There's no need to now, take every meaning, separate it out, and then use it as a basis, to create a call or to create a movement. But this is what these people do. And so there's a particular group that I'm sure you've all heard of, the Muslim Brotherhood, Al-Ikhwan, Al-Muslimun, and they are the ones who revived this incorrect understanding of Tawheed in the 20th century. And the Sheikh says that this is a political jama'ah, and their aim is simply, or they have an ambition. The ambition is to arrive at political leadership. This is what they are interested in, political leadership. And in order to do so, they have this doctrine, they have this idea that the meaning of La ilaha illallah is there is no ruler nor judge except Allah. And then what they do is they make takfir, they declare all contemporary Muslim rulers to be disbelievers, to be outside the fold of Islam. And then they say that it is an obligation for everybody to restore the rule of Islam, right? And so to this end, they engage in political work, and they basically draw in every person, no matter what doctrine he's upon, no matter what belief he's upon, no matter what creed he's upon. They want to gather everybody into one big mass, and then they'll do, different things based upon what's the most expedient, what's the most, the best thing to do. So for example, you could either encourage the people to engage in a revolution, which you need large numbers, a revolution. That's one way you can then direct the masses. Or you can basically direct the people to go into democracy and parliaments and voting, and let them vote you in where there is democracy, right? So these people, their aim is simply to gain political power, that's it. And this idea of La ilaha illallah, meaning there is no ruler or judge except Allah, is just simply a kind of doctrine or ideology that they use in order to gather the people together, right? Behind some sort of cause or some sort of movement. And then they will, either lead them into a revolution or engage in democracy, because the ultimate goal is only to get power. And then they have a principle that they use in order to unite the people together. And this principle is really a Freemasonic principle.